The vast expanse of space was silent, as it always was. The stars blinked softly in the endless void, distant and indifferent. A fleet of alien ships, sleek and powerful, cruised through this silence, their engines' hums barely breaking the stillness. These ships were among the strongest in the galaxy, their technology far beyond that of any species they had encountered. The alien forces had conquered worlds, toppled empires, and extinguished civilizations with ease. But now, as their fleet moved toward a planet that had long been ignored by the galactic powers, Earth, they were about to face something they had never considered: humanity. Commander Renak, leader of the alien fleet, sat in the command center of the flagship. His fingers ran across the holographic controls, reviewing the data on the planet below. The humans, a primitive species by galactic standards, had barely survived their early space explorations. Their technology was outdated, and their military strength was nothing compared to the advanced alien races. To Renak, Earth was nothing more than a small, insignificant planet, an easy target. "We are approaching the target, Commander," a voice broke through his thoughts. Renak nodded, his cold, calculating eyes fixed on the view ahead. "Prepare for entry into Earth's atmosphere. We're going to teach them a lesson they'll never forget." His fleet moved closer, the ships cutting through the cold space like predators closing in on their prey. They had already begun to broadcast a message of their arrival, an ultimatum. Renak believed in the power of fear. A simple message declaring the fate of Earth would cause the humans to submit immediately. His fleet had never failed, and today would be no different. But then, something happened. The calm silence of space was shattered by a sudden, sharp noise, a sound that none of the alien fleet had ever heard before. It wasn't a normal signal or a typical transmission. It was something else. A sound that echoed through the comm system and made every alien aboard the ship stop and listen. It was music. A strange, deep, rhythmic pulse filled the air, followed by the sound of a powerful, almost primal engine roar. It was unlike anything Renak had ever encountered. The fleet commanders looked at each other in confusion, some even questioning the nature of the sound. Was it a weapon? A signal of some kind? Renak's hand froze over the controls, his sharp mind racing. He had expected resistance, but not like this. The humans were supposed to be weak, defenseless, and afraid. What kind of force would produce such a sound? "Commander, we are detecting an unknown vessel approaching from the planet's surface," reported one of the officers. "It's massive, and it's heading straight toward us." Renak's heart skipped a beat. Massive. What could the humans possibly have that could rival the power of his fleet? His ships were equipped with weapons capable of wiping out entire cities with a single shot. But this was different. He quickly turned to the screen, where a massive shape was emerging from the atmosphere of Earth. The object was unlike anything Renak had ever seen. It was a ship, but it was ancient. The design was crude compared to the sleek and advanced ships of his fleet. Yet there was something about it that was unsettling. Its size alone was enough to make any seasoned military leader uneasy. The ship's shape was angular, built for war, not beauty. It looked almost like a giant, floating fortress, a relic from an ancient time. As it approached, Renak could see enormous cannons mounted along its surface, gleaming with deadly intent. But what truly shocked him was the aura that surrounded the ship. It wasn't just its size or its weaponry. It was the presence. There was something about it, something unexplainable. The ship exuded a feeling of defiance, as if it was daring the fleet to engage with it. "Report," Renak barked, his voice growing more agitated. "What is this vessel? What are we dealing with?" We're not sure, Commander," the officer replied, voice shaking. "It's a human warship, and it appears to be fully operational. But it's unlike any human technology we've encountered before." The realization hit Renak like a blow. The humans had something they hadn't expected, something capable of standing up to them. For the first time, Renak felt the stirrings of doubt. Could this be the last mistake his fleet made? The music from the human ship grew louder, louder than before, filling the comm system. It wasn't just an attack or a message. It was a challenge. The humans weren't running. They weren't afraid. They were welcoming their invaders, but not in the way Rhynak had expected. They were declaring war. The fleet fell silent. The soldiers aboard the alien ships were no longer so confident. The shock had set in. This was not going to be an easy victory. The human ship was much stronger than they had thought. Rhynak's mind raced. He knew that this encounter was going to change everything. And that was when the first shot was fired. The human warship's weaponry unleashed a shockwave that rippled through the alien fleet, sending shudders through the hulls of Rhynak's ships. The blast wasn't just a simple attack. It was precise, calculated, and devastating. A single strike had already put the alien fleet on the defensive. "Initiate evasive maneuvers," Rhynak shouted, his voice filled with urgency. But it was too late. The first strike had already shown the human strength, and the fleet was now aware of the true power of Earth's defenders. The unexpected sound, the music, had been the signal, the beginning of humanity's retaliation. The galaxy would never view Earth the same way again. This was no longer just a war of survival. This was the beginning of humanity's fight to reclaim their place in the stars. The alien fleet, once confident and unstoppable, now found themselves reeling from the sudden shock of the human warship's power. The first blast had rocked their ships, sending ripples of panic through the ranks. The alien officers scrambled to assess the damage, their voices raised in frantic commands. "Shields down to 40%, Commander," one officer reported, his voice cracking with anxiety. "The human ship's weaponry is far stronger than we anticipated. It's tearing through our defenses." Rhynak gritted his teeth. This was not the scenario he had prepared for. He had assumed that Earth would be an easy target, a defenseless planet ripe for conquest. But now, humanity had struck back with the force of 1,000 storms. He watched as the human warship's massive cannons fired again, sending another shockwave rippling through his fleet. "Return fire. Engage with all weapons," Rhynak ordered, his voice steady despite the fear that gnawed at him. He had led many battles before, but never had he faced a situation like this. The alien fleet, normally the epitome of power, unleashed a barrage of laser beams and plasma bursts toward the human warship. However, the human ship's shields absorbed the hits with ease. It wasn't just the ship's size or weaponry that made it formidable. It was the humans' ingenuity, their resourcefulness. They had turned their survival into an art. Rhynak's command center was filled with flashes of red as the enemy fire hit, yet the human ship withstood it all. The music, that eerie, booming sound, continued to play from the human warship. It wasn't just a message. It was a warning, an anthem of defiance. Every note carried with it a promise. Earth would not kneel. The human ship retaliated again, but this time, the strike was different. The blast wasn't just a single pulse. It was a concentrated burst of energy that tore through the fabric of space itself. It hit one of Rhynak's ships dead on, and for a moment, the entire alien fleet was bathed in an unnatural light. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash, disintegrating into nothing but debris. The destruction was instant. No escape. No warning. Just the raw power of humanity unleashed. The alien fleet was now facing something they had never encountered before. A species they had written off as weak and primitive had become their greatest adversary. Rhynak's heart raced. This wasn't just a skirmish. It was an all-out war. And Earth had already taken the first blow. "Commander, another ship is approaching," one of the officers cried, pointing at the radar. "It's human as well, larger than the first." Rhynak's gaze snapped to the screen. Another warship. This one was even bigger than the first, and it seemed to be built for one thing: destruction. Unlike the sleek, efficient alien ships, this one looked rougher, like it had been forged in the fires of battle rather than designed in a lab. It was covered in scars, but those scars told a story of survival, of fighting and surviving against impossible odds. How many more of these are there? Rhynak muttered under his breath, a knot of worry growing in his chest. The alien fleet's initial confidence began to shatter as they watched Earth's warships advance. This wasn't just a rebellion. This was a statement. Humanity had never given up. No matter how many times they were knocked down, they had always stood back up. "Get ready for another round of fire," Rhynak commanded, though even he wasn't sure it would be enough. The odds were shifting. Humanity was no longer the prey. It had become the predator. As the second human warship moved into position, the sound of their anthem grew louder, echoing across the fleet. It wasn't just a sound, it was a promise of vengeance. Every note rang with the memory of the Earth that had once been vibrant, filled with life, only to be reduced to ashes by invaders who had underestimated its people. "Prepare the reinforcements," Rhynak ordered, trying to remain calm. But it was clear that this battle was far from over. Humanity was not going to roll over and submit as they had expected. No, they were coming back to reclaim what was theirs, and they were bringing the full force of their fury with them. The second human ship fired, its shot lighting up the dark expanse of space. Rhynak's ship took the hit, and for a moment, everything seemed to slow down. The blast hit their shields, and the power flickered. The impact rattled the entire ship, and Rhynak's officers were thrown from their stations. "Status report," Rhynak barked. "We've lost 2 of our outer engines, Commander," an officer replied. "Shields are down to 60%. We're in danger of being overwhelmed if we don't act fast." The alien fleet had always prided itself on its superiority, but this was different. The humans had taken them by surprise, and now they were fighting back with a ferocity that no one had anticipated. Rhynak knew they were at a crossroads. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The human warships weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for revenge. And this was only the beginning. Rhynak paced back and forth in his command center, a deep sense of dread settling in. The first strike had been bad enough. The second had shaken them to the core. But this was a nightmare they had never imagined. The alien fleet, once a symbol of invincibility, was now scrambling. The humans had been underestimated, their potential overlooked. Yet, as Rhynak watched the screen in front of him, it became clear. Earth had come back not only to fight, but to win. The third human warship arrived, and it wasn't just a ship, it was a force of nature. Its hull was scared, bearing the marks of countless battles fought and survived. The ship's size was enormous, towering above the rest, its weaponry bristling like the fangs of a predator. The human fleet wasn't just advancing, it was hunting, and Rhynak's fleet was the prey. "We cannot let them advance any further," Rhynak growled, his voice heavy with the weight of the situation. "Prepare to engage with everything we have." But the human ships didn't seem to care. They moved with terrifying precision, their every move calculated, their every action deliberate. It was as if they had a plan, an understanding of how this battle was going to unfold. As the alien fleet opened fire, the human ships didn't retreat. Instead, they accelerated, their engines roaring as they shot forward, weaving through the alien barrage with surprising agility. It was clear now. Humanity had fought wars before. They had learned how to survive, and now they were showing the galaxy what they had learned. "Fire at will," Rhynak ordered again, his voice rising with desperation. But the alien weapons, despite their overwhelming numbers, were no match for the precision and speed of the human warships. The first wave of alien fire missed, their shots tracking nothing but empty space as the human ships juked and dove, faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. Then, with deadly accuracy, the humans returned fire. A massive blast erupted, obliterating the lead ship in Rhynak's fleet. The explosion sent shockwaves through the vast emptiness of space, and for a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. Rhynak's mind raced. It was too late to change the course of the battle. They had underestimated the humans, and now it was clear there was no going back. "Report," Rhynak barked. "What's our status?" "Shields are failing," an officer said, fear creeping into their voice. "Multiple systems are down." "We're losing control, Commander." Rhynak clenched his fists, trying to suppress the rising panic. He had faced many challenges in his life, but nothing compared to this. The humans were not just surviving. They were thriving in the chaos. They had turned the tables, flipping the script on the invaders who had once thought they were unstoppable. Then came the message. On every screen, across the entire fleet, a single image appeared, the symbol of Earth, the symbol of humanity's defiance. Along with it, the haunting sound, the same song that had filled the vastness of space when the first human warship fired. It was an anthem of war, of revenge, and of unwavering resolve. The message was simple, yet powerful. "We will take back what is ours. You will regret ever underestimating us." The message was broadcast not just to the fleet, but to every corner of space. Rhynak felt a chill run down his spine as the words echoed in his mind. This wasn't just a threat. It was a declaration of war. Humanity had been wronged, and they were coming back to make things right. The alien fleet, which had once been a dominant force, now found itself outmatched. Their arrogance, their superiority, had led them to this moment of reckoning. And in that moment, Rhynak realized that the true nature of humanity had only just begun to reveal itself. This war would not be won with superior numbers or firepower. It would be won by the unrelenting will of a species that had been pushed too far. As the human ships continued to press their attack, Rhynak's thoughts turned to one thing: survival. His fleet was in disarray, and the prospect of victory seemed increasingly remote. He knew that this wasn't just a battle for the fate of one planet. It was a fight for the very soul of the galaxy. Humanity had been underestimated, written off as weak and insignificant. But now, the galaxy would learn that Earth's warriors were not so easily defeated. The battle raged on, and with every passing moment, it became clearer that the aliens had made a grave mistake. They had awakened something within humanity, something ancient and powerful. The flame of revenge burned bright, and it would take more than firepower to extinguish it. The Vengeance Fleet wasn't just a threat. It was the herald of a new era, an era in which humanity would never again be silenced. And the aliens, for the first time, truly understood the cost of underestimating humanity. The echoes of the alien fleet's destruction reverberated through space like the aftermath of a cosmic earthquake. The burning silence followed the chaos, broken only by the hum of the surviving ships struggling to stay intact. The alien forces, shaken to their core, struggled to regroup, their once pristine military discipline crumbling under the sheer willpower of humanity's vengeance. Rhynak stood on the command deck, staring at the destroyed ships drifting in the void, their carcasses like the remnants of a forgotten dream. He couldn't shake the image of the human warship, its monstrous size, its unrelenting firepower. It was as if the humans had been waiting for this moment, building up their strength, their rage, for centuries. The humiliation of their defeat on Earth had fueled something primal within them, and now it was spilling out in ways Rhynak had never anticipated. "Commander," an officer said, his voice strained with anxiety, "the human fleet is advancing again. They're coming for us." Rhynak's heart pounded in his chest. They had barely survived the last assault, and now they were about to face another. How could they defeat this enemy? Their weapons, their tactics, they were all built to overpower civilizations like the one on Earth, yet nothing seemed to work against these humans. "Prepare for the worst," Rhynak said, his voice low. "Activate the remaining shields and ready all weapons." The alien fleet had suffered heavy losses, but they were not completely broken. They still had a few ships left, and they would fight until their last breath. However, they were now painfully aware that this would not be an easy victory. The human fleet was not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their honor, their planet, and for the very future of their species. Meanwhile, the human fleet, led by General Alina, was growing in strength. Each new ship that arrived seemed like a new wave in an unstoppable tide. Their numbers weren't as large as the alien fleets, but their ships were far more powerful, each one like a weapon forged from the flames of their past suffering. The aliens had underestimated humanity's ability to come together, to adapt, and most importantly, to fight with unrelenting fury. Alina's warship, the Revenant, cut through the void, its engines thrumming with power. She stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the enemy fleet as it grew larger in the viewport. Her expression was calm, but there was a fire in her eyes that told the truth. She was ready. "Lock all weapons, target their flagship," Alina commanded, her voice sharp and unwavering. The officers around her moved in sync, working with precision to ready the weapons. She had been here before, leading humanity's forces in their darkest hour. But this was different. This was a war for revenge. A war to show the galaxy that Earth was not to be trifled with. "Fire," Alina ordered. The Revenant's cannons erupted with a deafening roar. Brilliant beams of energy shot out into the blackness, cutting through the void and striking the alien flagship with deadly accuracy. The impact was catastrophic. One of the largest alien ships shook violently as its hull buckled under the force of the human weapons. The shockwave of the blast reached out, hitting the surrounding ships, creating a ripple effect of chaos. The alien fleet, already in disarray, was now thrown into further confusion. A ship that had once seemed untouchable now burned in the void, sending a clear message to Raynak and every member of his fleet. "We are not done. We will never be done." "This is just the beginning," Alina muttered, her voice cold. The humans weren't here to retreat. They weren't here to beg for mercy. They were here to take back what was theirs. In the midst of the chaos, the alien fleet attempted to retaliate, but their shots missed by a wide margin. The human ships were far too agile, weaving and darting with precision that defied the aliens' expectations. Every time they fired, the humans countered with a devastating attack, their weapons cutting through the darkness like a scythe through wheat. "Report," Alina said, her eyes scanning the chaos on her screen. "We've taken down another flagship, General," came the reply. "Their fleet is crumbling. They're retreating." Alina's gaze hardened. "They won't get away. Not now. Not after all they've done." With her orders, the human fleet advanced, pushing forward with relentless precision. The alien ships, once so proud and unyielding, were now in full retreat, unable to match the human resolve. The tables had turned. Humanity had become the hunter, and the aliens the hunted. Raynak watched from his command deck as the humans pressed forward. His worst fear had come to life. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, dismissed them as a weak, insignificant species. But now, they were the ones retreating in the face of a force that seemed unstoppable. "We can't win this," Raynak whispered to himself as the last of his fleet fled into the distance. The human fleet was on their tail, and the war was far from over. But for the first time, the invaders understood what it meant to feel true fear. Earth's message had been sent, and the galaxy would never forget the price they had paid for underestimating humanity. In the vast, cold expanse of space, the chase continued. The alien fleet, battered and broken, was retreating in disarray. But it was not over yet. Every ship that fled from the humans knew that there was nowhere to hide, no place to find refuge. Humanity had learned the cost of underestimating the galaxy's most deadly invaders. But now, the tides had shifted. The revenge of Earth's people was just beginning. The Revenant, Alina's flagship, was leading the charge. Her ship cut through space like a phantom, its dark silhouette a symbol of defiance. With each moment, her resolve grew stronger. She knew that the aliens could not be allowed to escape. This was no longer about survival. It was about retribution. "We have them on the run, General," one of her officers reported. "Their fleet is fragmented. Their leadership is in disarray." but they're still trying to regroup. Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the starry abyss before her. Keep the pressure on. They won't get far. Humanity's warships, sleek and powerful, chased after the scattered alien vessels with unrelenting speed. They had learned from their past battles and had honed their tactics. The alien fleet, accustomed to easy victories, could barely react fast enough to match the human resolve. Every ship in the human fleet was like a piece of sharpened steel, relentless and precise in their pursuit. Meanwhile, on the flagship of the alien fleet, Rhynak stood in grim silence. His mind raced with questions. What had gone wrong? How had humanity gone from being a barely surviving race to becoming a nightmare that haunted the stars? They should have been crushed, Rhynak muttered to himself. We had them. We should have finished them. A sub-commander approached him, her face pale with fear. Commander, the humans are gaining on us. They've broken through our perimeter. Rhynak clenched his fists in frustration. His once proud fleet was now in retreat, and it seemed that no matter what he did, the humans were one step ahead. There was no denying it now. Their ships were faster, their weapons more deadly, and their will to fight was stronger than anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Prepare to make the jump to hyperspace, Rhynak ordered. We need to regroup with the rest of the fleet. If we don't, we'll be wiped out. But even as he gave the command, he knew it might be too late. The humans weren't going to give them the time to escape. They were determined, and their vengeance had become something more than just a war. They were fighting for their future, for the survival of their species, and for the memory of all that had been lost. Back on the Revenant, Elena stared at the view screen, watching as the alien ships scrambled to escape. A part of her wanted to feel relief. After all, Earth was getting its revenge. The invaders were retreating, and victory was in sight. But there was something else, something colder and more determined in her heart. We have to end this, she whispered. We can't stop until they're completely defeated. The fleet's next move was swift. The humans, without mercy, targeted the lead alien ships, catching them in a pincer movement they had perfected in the heat of battle. It was a move the aliens couldn't counter, not after the damage they had taken. One by one, the alien vessels fell, each shot another symbol of humanity's fury and unyielding strength. Target their lead ship, Elena ordered, her voice steady. End this now. The Revenant fired, a powerful beam cutting through the dark void and striking the alien flagship. It was the final blow. The ship, once proud and formidable, was now a burning wreck in the cold emptiness of space. The surviving aliens had no choice but to scatter. The galaxy, which had once feared their power, was now watching as the mighty invaders were forced to flee in shame, beaten by a species they had once deemed insignificant. As the battle drew to a close, the human fleet stood victorious. But there was no celebration. The war had taken its toll, and many lives had been lost. Humanity had fought not just to survive, but to make sure that the horrors they had faced would never be repeated. Elena stood on the bridge of the Revenant, staring out into space. The enemy was defeated, but the galaxy had taken notice. No one would ever forget what happened here today. Message sent, Elena muttered under her breath. No one will ever forget Earth. The battle for vengeance was over, but the scars it left on the universe would be permanent. Humanity had not just survived. It had shown the galaxy that they would never be cowed again. And for the first time in a long while, Elena felt a glimmer of hope. The humans had come from the edge of destruction, and they had reclaimed their place in the stars.